Well, we start this week with some meteoric news, don't we?
Meteoric.
Sorry, I cut you off.
I tell you what, this is, there was a vaccine that's been produced and it's actually been approved now by the UK.
No, not that.
This
not
pales
that.
into insignificance, doesn't it? This bit of news. Go on, tell them.
Did you know, listeners, that you could be in one of 29 countries listening to us at the moment?
29 countries. Wow.
29 countries we've been viewed in.
Do we know which countries those are? I mean, is it out of Mongolia where they're listening into us?
Look, you've got to take the message of CX wherever people are going to listen to it, haven't you? And
that's it.
And 4,000 downloads.
4,000?
I mean,
that's brilliant, and that's down to you, lovely listeners and viewers. Thank you very much from us warblers from the West Country. We do appreciate it. It's great.
That's all you liking, sharing, and commenting. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's great, and everybody's been involved in our lovely interviews and conversations, which, with a brilliant segue, brings me to this week's chat with my good friend Andy Moules, who is the owner of Red Rose Technologies, which gives a little bit of a clue about what we're going to be talking about today. So I had a good chat with him about technology, the impact it has on customer experience, and provides us with a few top tips to think about when companies are looking for new tech that they need within their systems and within their organisation. So, shall we?
Yeah, we shall. But just before we do, I just want to set the listeners up as well, because this is a bit of a two-parter, isn't it? About getting your business technology ready for 2021 from a customer experience perspective. So we've got Andy, who's brilliant, who I'm really looking forward to listening to. Seen a lot of his stuff on LinkedIn, so I'm sure he will be brilliant. But then next week I'm talking to Ben Sterling, and Ben is a UX expert. So you're going to have let's see what Andy's got to say, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we will do our little bit of a summary at the end, and then show how it links into next week's one as well. Brilliant. Here we go. Over to Andy.
Hello, and welcome to episode 28's interview with Andy Moules, who is from Red Rose Technologies. And we're really pleased to have you here today, Andy. Thank you ever so much, stumbling over my words, for making some time for us today. It's really, really much appreciated. And we're going to start to talk a little bit about the technology side of things. A lot of the time from our instant insight interviews, we talk a lot about behaviours and the touchy-feely sort of stuff. But actually, from a customer experience point of view, the tech's really important. So, Andy, if you'd like to say hello to our viewers and listeners and just let us know what you do, be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to join you. It's technology is one of those things that I get really passionate about talking about, and certainly the customer experience when it comes to technology. It's one of those technologies that actually has probably the biggest impact on kind of bottom line and profits of business. So when you see it working well, and when you see a company really benefiting it really it's nice to know you were part of that journey as well. So
right.
Again, something I could talk about all day.
Yeah, absolutely. So Red Rose Technologies themselves, how do you work with your clients? What is the offering, and what are the benefits that your clients get from you?
Yeah. Well, my business model is fairly different to what's out there, and it does take by a few people by surprise, because essentially how I operate and what I do with my clients is I work with them on a number of scales around technology for their business. And just to give you sort of a couple of examples which really paints how I work and what we do is, I'll take a technology like telephone systems, for example. I'll get clients that will come to me and say, Andy, we really do appreciate that we need new technology, we need new telephone system for whatever reason. It could be, that we are expanding, it could be the technology's out of date, whatever that reason is. But there's a lot of choice out there, and we don't know what's good, what's bad, what's right, what we should be paying. So what I do is I help them with a few things. I've been in this technology industry and working for manufacturers for a number of years. So I've built up a network of roughly about 50 suppliers at the moment, 50 global leading suppliers in my network. And what I could do is I could sit down with a customer like yourself and say, you know, what's important to you? Is it budget, conversation? Is it technology? Do you want to really expand what you're doing and actually introduce new technologies to help sales growth, whatever that may be? We'll do that discovery session. And then on behalf of the customer, I'll say, right, let me go back into my network. I've got your profile. I've got what you're looking for. I'll go and speak to my suppliers. And essentially, I'm going out to the market and doing that research, doing that supplier selection for them on their behalf. And then I'll come back to yourself, which is, right, here's some options. Here's some of the suppliers that I work with. And here's a reason why I think we should, you know, have them demonstrate and have them come and talk to you and do a bit of show and tell of their technology and their background. So that's one of the examples where I work. Again, you know, it could be that a small business just have a real budget requirement and say, I've got lots and lots of quotes. Again, I don't know if I'm being quoted the right thing. There's prices from X pound per user right up to whatever the cost is per user. What's the right sort of price? What's the right price point? Is this the right technology? So I'll quite happily look through competitors' quotes, look through the number of quotes for customers and say, you know, that's a really good deal. I think you should go with that. Or I might even say, I think I could probably better that for you. If you like, I can go back and see what my suppliers are willing to offer.
That's nice. So it sounds like you're almost there holding the client or the customer's hand as well, and being that support mechanism for them. Would that be a fair thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I definitely give my suppliers a good run for their money, because you're absolutely right. I'll sit on the customer's side of the fence, and having been in that technology industry where I've been working for these manufacturers for a number of years, there's two things. I kind of know how some of them operate, but at the same time, there's a lot of questions that clients don't answer when it comes to a bit more of the technical side. And anyone who looks at my LinkedIn profile will see that I'm a big advocate for quality over a price point sometimes, and I will say to clients, you know, you need to, let's ask about SLAs, let's ask about what you physically get as a support mechanism from this supplier. So if your system does happen to have an outage or go down, whatever that may be, because it happens with all technology, you need to know that you're going to get the right response times, or where are their data centers based. That's that people don't ask, because a lot of it is, as much as commercials come into it, some people just tend to look at price and don't consider what's under the hood. So that's where I come in, and I, like I said, I give the suppliers a really good run for their money. And
that's really interesting. You mentioned that sort of the idea of, you know, you're on the client side, if you like. You're sat with them, pushing, you know, bringing them through that. How is that? Have you seen that change through this year? Obviously, we find ourselves in an interesting year, 2020. Has that need or the expectations of clients changed, or how have you seen that through this year?
Yeah, I definitely have. I've seen clearly with what's going on, there's lots and lots of people that are saying to us, we need to get to some sort of working from home environment, and we need to feel and look similar to how we did when we were back in the office. And one of the things I talk to my clients about, and there's a couple very recently, when I'm talking to an IT manager or so on, that I'm saying, the other thing you need to consider is actually how self-service is the system, because you've seen how quickly we've had to change from office to working from home. You need to be able to change your systems and your technologies and your procedures just as quickly. So a lot of the time I'll be sitting down with these IT managers and saying, look, here's a system that I think might be quite good, because you can quickly change, pivot, whatever it may be, at the drop of a hat, and you don't need to, you know, have all this huge amount of training to really be able just to make these simple changes. So you can go in, you can make simple changes. You know, cloud technology should be plug and play.
Yeah, it sounds, it's very much like looking at the technology from the customer's point of view, so the end user's point of view, what's going to make their life easier. And that's something that we talk a lot about in terms of the goals that organizations have. They often think, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, tech's almost that we've got a problem, so therefore let's push some tech into it, and it works for us as an organization internally, and then how it works for the customer seems to be a secondary thought, and that can cause problems as far as I can see it. You know, being a customer.
Yeah, again, it's probably the other really important subject that we've had from this last sort of 8 months or so, and that is, and I even done a post about it recently where I myself, when I'm looking and speaking to new clients, you know, you'll ring a number from a business, and that number will end up directing through to someone's mobile, or you'll get through to someone and they're like, I can't transfer you, I'm working from home. So that's, you know, a really I think, you know, if I was a client of theirs looking to purchase something from them or their service, I think, oh, that doesn't look and sound particularly great. You know, this is my valuable time. If I'm going to be ringing a company, I want to be straight in and connected and get that personal approach. So again, something that we're talking to clients about, that how do you make people working from home, because that's the topic at the moment, isn't it? How do you give them the tools and the responsibilities to be able to carry on their normal working life and keep their morale up and delivering the right service to clients?
Absolutely, and I don't think that's going to change. I mean, even when hopefully when vaccines come in and play and we get back to some normality, we're still going to be getting people who are going to be working from home more often. They may be going back in the office, but it's that flexibility of working that the technology needs to support, doesn't it? Because it's not just a matter of having that hardwired telephone into the wall anymore. In fact, I'm sat in an office at the moment with old wires all over the place where there was 25 different things being plugged in all the time. You know, so the technology is there to be able to provide these solutions, but it's got to be fitted into the customer's journey, the client's journey in the right way. Otherwise, it doesn't land very well. So I'm really intrigued in terms of your offering for your customers, because you know that what you're doing, you know, it's not just, you know, you're working for that tech provider who then clients come to and then you sell them the system. You're giving that wider view of the marketplace, aren't you? You're giving them some more insight, which is fantastic, and that really is what our customers are, all of our customers across whatever sector, are looking for these days. They're looking for more of that experience. So how does that work for you? Do you spend time with your clients on the telephone pre sort of being engaged with to do the work? How does that work for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, technology is there is so much going on, and one of the things I do in the background prior to any customer conversation, or before even talking to a customer conversation, is I'm constantly researching what the big players, what the big vendors are doing, and how some of the case studies they're coming out with, so that when I can sit down with a client or we start talking about customer experience, or whatever the technology may be, I can start to say, like, well, you know, there's this really cool bit of technology I've just seen in the marketplace, which is, you know, really affecting and giving really good benefits. So, you know, you talk about customer experience. One of the really encouraging things at the moment is actually how the technology is not only embracing the user, but it's making the business give that always on, always connectable feeling, but at the same time making sure that as a business, you're able to connect with the customer how they want to connect, because the social media side of things, there's a terminology in the technology channel of omni-channel, and that is whether it be, you know, through a social media, WhatsApp, you know, whether it be email, you know, or whether you want to go down the old traditional route of actually making a phone call. It's being able to speak to those customers in those mediums. And again, when I talk to clients, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're a really, you know, micro business of, could be a couple of users, or whether you're like 200,000 users. The technology is affordable now, and enterprise technology is really affordable down that smaller end. And it's don't be afraid of it. It really is there to help you. Like I said at the beginning of our interview, this is the one technology I see that really puts a benefit on that bottom line. You know, so.
Great. Yeah,
just embrace that technology, because there's so much cool technology out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication is key. So the one with myself and Ryan on our podcast, people who've listened to us regularly, we talk about communication all the time. So if you've got the systems, you've got the technology to ensure that the communication can keep flowing, then you're a long way down the route of keeping that customer experience at the highest possible level, retaining your customers, and actually getting them to promote your organisation as well.
Yeah.
So we're sort of coming to the end of our little chat today. But in terms of top tips, I know on LinkedIn you're very active. Please do look out for Andy on LinkedIn. He's got some great tips and posts coming out in terms of what to look out for in terms of if you're looking for, say, new phone systems. If you've got a couple of top tips for our listeners out there around their tech, what would those be?
Top tips, yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, in a recent post, I did put in there a couple of things I always say to customers, and one of those things are, think about your clients and why they work with you, and then kind of start to draw up a list of how you could put another positive spin, how you could encourage their interaction with you by possibly making things a bit more automated. If you were to have social media interaction, how would that change your interaction with your customers? Would it be better? Would it encourage more new business?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is think about your how you can use data, for example, to support your business as well, because a lot of the technologies will be able to give you so much analytics, so many trends of when your busy periods are, what are the key indicators, what medium people are coming to. So think about customers, think about how the data could improve your business. And then last of all is don't forget about your agents and your actual people on the phones themselves. So if you introduce a technology that would, I don't know, let's say reduce the number of unnecessary calls in your busy periods. Let's say you could wipe off 50% of unnecessary calls in busy periods, so that when a call comes to your agent, not only are they able to see the technology who's calling them, and they can give a personal approach, they'll have details popping up in their screen in front of them to say this client has bought this in the past, or they had this interaction, they called in this time. And then also you're giving that agent the opportunity to bypass a lot of that administrative type work and just get straight to the point. And would that affect the morale of your salespeople, that they can cut out a lot of that deadwood type conversations and get straight to the point of dealing with the customer and doing something proactive with them?
Oh, fantastic, great points. Yeah, the technology's out there. It's changing, daily. Let's make the most of it, because we add that to some great human interaction, and you get a really good experience for your customers, which is exactly what we're talking about today. So thanks for the insight today, Andy. It's much appreciated. How can our listeners and viewers get in contact with you? Whereabouts can they find you?
Yeah, a couple of ways. So the website is Red Rose Technologies. That's IES at the end of technologies.co.uk. LinkedIn, Andrew Moules. You should be able to find me there. Those are probably the best two ways to get hold of me.
Fantastic, and those will have appeared on the screen as well, so you can view those. Fantastic, Andy. Thanks ever so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
Have a great weekend, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
So there he is, a font of all knowledge, Andy.
Wow.
A brilliant person to have a chat with in terms of all of the tech that's out there, because I think that's one of the issues that a lot of organizations have, is they know that they have gaps in their customer experience and they'd like to utilize this brilliant technology that's out there, but there's so much. Which ones do you go for? What do you need? Is it big enough? Can it grow with you as an organization? So many things to think about. What did you think of Andy's insights?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I'm delighted I've listened to Andy, because it now gives me the perfect excuse to have a discussion with my wife about buying a whole load of tech and a whole new load of tech. Because, Andy's perspective, you've got to have the best tech on the market. Yeah, there was a couple of things, all joking aside, that I thought were really, really powerful, actually. What I really liked was how client-centric he was in terms of looking at all the solutions for his clients in his initial meeting, and actually being really honest to say, actually my solution may not be right for you, so I might recommend another solution, which I thought was you don't hear that a lot in terms of that really is totally customer centric. So I thought that was brilliant. And he talked about, didn't he, about a bespoke supplier review and this whole piece around, you know, have you got the right people that are giving you what you need to get the right insight. So I thought, you know, and that's music to our ears, isn't it? Because that's a lot of what we do, is that measurement and getting that insight right, and then acting upon that at Insight 6. So that was really good. And then the other bit that stuck with me from his chat with you was this, you know, this, we tend to think, don't we, or I think a lot of legacy businesses do across the UK, that we tend to think that when you put a technology solution in, and you know, as you were talking to him about wrapping that solution in love, and that process being put in place, we tend to then walk away from it for a while, don't we, and go, oh well, that's sorted now. But you know, Andy was advocating, wasn't he, that you've got to keep going back and checking it and looking at it and measuring it, and is there a better system? So real food for thought if you're thinking about investing in technology next year.
So I think Andy's point he was making around the fact that we've got a very different year this year in terms of the different customer journey has changed so much. So therefore, is your tech up to what it was before? A great example, and I mentioned this, is around our professional services or the phone inquiry. You know, because it used to be you'd phone an office and then they put you through to the person upstairs or in another office in the same building. That doesn't happen at the moment, and it may not in the future. You may have more people working remotely. So things like phone systems as a piece of tech, you can't just sit there and go, we've got this piece of tech, it works okay. You've got to look from the customer's point of view to see how well it's working for them, haven't you? And so that review process is critical to keep going, you know, keep doing.
Do you know, it's a really, really good point. We've got a client we're just doing some work for this week, the legal client, who they're just implementing live chat on their website, and they've identified a need sort of particularly out of hours and at weekends. And this particular organization are very forward thinking, and they've asked us to do some customer experience reviews across. They're doing a trial for 2 weeks, and they've asked us to do 5 reviews at different times during those 2 weeks to check whether it works from a client perspective. But more importantly, so that's kind of the tech bit of it, you know, does it work? Does it pop up when it's supposed to? You know, do they do all of the things that the company have said that they're going to do? But secondly, the caveat to that is then it's a normal inquiry. So they want to see actually how their team are reacting to the new tech. So it's kind of this end-to-end piece that Andy was talking about. So yeah, you know what, I think you know, we're recording this in the week that with the very sad news of some major businesses in the UK going bust. Debenhams, Arcadia, Bonmarsh, you know, lots of jobs on the line. And what's really evident, firstly, what's very incredibly sad is very, very, very many talented people are going to lose their jobs. And because they're talented, I know they'll get new ones very quickly. I'm absolutely sure of that. But if you build on that point, there are 3 great examples of businesses that 10 years ago were at the top of their game. But they haven't moved with the technology. They haven't moved their online platforms to stay ahead of that customer pendulum. So you know, the part of their business that, you know, their physical business was still maybe hitting the mark, great, but there was a whole load of business over here they weren't ready for.
And that's the omni-channel piece, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's about this, you know, we talk about technology and reaching out to your customers through different channels. We've still got the telephone, but we've got Zoom, we've got WhatsApp, we've got all of these different ways of connecting with people, but also we've got these different ways of serving our customers. And they want the choice now. So the tech that enables you to provide multiple channels of communication and provision of the service is a critical thing to start looking at. And then, of course, go back to the wrapping it with love piece, you've still got to have a team who are engaged and motivated enough to want to be able to utilize and use the tech to its full potential. Because you know, a lot of the time, I'm sure there's a lot of systems that sit there, only sort of 30 or 40% of it actually being used to its full potential. So we've got to be able to engage your teams in this tech and the reason why they have to change, adjust, and look at new ways of doing things. Because there's positives with these things. It will bring more customers in, And from a negative point of view, if you don't, as you've just mentioned, we can see that those businesses that fall behind, unfortunately, they have a situation which nobody wants to be in. So there's an opportunity. There's lots of opportunity for organisations to consider the customer experience and where the tech fits in, which then leads us to next week's as well, presumably.
It leads us brilliantly on things. So I think the other bit I want to pick up on there, Rich, from what you said is the other great news, of course, that we've had this week, other than the fact that we are now live in 29 countries, that we might mention at the beginning in 4,000 downloads. Thank you very much. Like, share and comment. Is that the amazing news that the UK is the first major Western economy to license the COVID vaccine from BioNTech Pfizer, and I'm sure the AstraZeneca and others will be, and the Oxford will be done very soon too. But that news on its own, there is just a genuine feeling, I think, from everyone I'm speaking to, of there's a smile on people's faces. There's some optimism now around, do you know what, this is the beginning of the end. This is the end of what we've been through. And my experience, my 20 and the years in business, tells me that when you have that sort of optimism come back and people feel that there's a really positive future in front of them, they will start to reach out, and business will start to grow, and the economies will start to grow, and all that great stuff we know that happen. The question I would want to pose on today's call is, are you ready for what your customers will want on the back of trying to get back to some kind of normality? And tech, and using tech and making sure you've got the right tech, and then making sure the user experience is right, which we're going to talk about with Ben Sterling next week. So this is kind of a two-header in terms of getting you ready for next year. Really should set you up brilliantly for 2021, which we all know is going to be a lot brighter and happier than 2020.
Absolutely. The question is, how do you know what your customers want? So what do you do? But
just on that point, we've also got some very exciting news, haven't we? Because this is going to be my most exciting podcast ever. What are we doing, Rich? Tell everybody what we're doing.
Our listeners can't cope with two bits of fantastic news from the Warbling West Country. And also, the reason I don't want to tell them is I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Cider review. Oh, cider.
The experience with cider.
I thought that was a bit of a, that's a couple of weeks, so it's a week away at least. I didn't want to get them too excited. Cider tasting. We're going to do a festive cider tasting. So after we've spoken to Ben, the week after, look out for our Christmas top tips for CX, and also our top tips in terms of a good can of cider over Christmas. Look,
absolutely.
Absolutely
great. So listeners, loads of really exciting stuff to think about. By the time we finish by the end of the year, it won't be 29 countries. We'll have doubled that. And the cider streaming alone will double the amount of streaming. So it's been great talking to you again this week, Richard.
And indeed you, Ryan. I have been Richard Knight.
Ryan Huxtable. Like, share and comment. See you soon.